Now, we are privileged to hear from Mr. Jim Rohn. If you're unfamiliar with Jim, he was hailed as America's great business philosopher, having inspired millions of people all over the world in his too short career as one of the greatest teachers, mentors, and thought leaders of our time. I now proudly introduce Mr. Jim Rohn.
How to become financially independent. Living in America, of course, it's everybody's heritage to become financially independent. Now, it's fairly easy if you start at age 15. To become financially independent by age 35. How many years between 15 and 35? 20. So make the note, 20 years in America is enough time to become financially independent. Now, we can use all kinds of terms, getting rich, becoming wealthy. Sometimes rich and wealthy is a little bit heavy, where someone might say, I don't need to be rich. But, you know, rich is always in each person's concept of rich. You know, it used to be a long time ago, rich was being a millionaire, but, you know, a millionaire, $1 million is not that much anymore. So everything is relative. But someone says, well, I don't want to think of myself as trying to get rich. So, you know, there's other language we can use from a variety of semantics. You know, we can choose what's more comfortable. Becoming wealthy. The term wealthy in everybody's mind is probably a little different of what the amount is or what the accumulation is. So that's interesting. Rich or wealthy. But here's one concept I think everybody can comprehend, even the kids, and that's to someday be financially independent. So now let me give you my definition of financial independence. My definition is the ability to live from the income of your personal resources. The ability to live from the income of your personal resources. Meaning, at that point, you wouldn't have to work, that is to make a living, or work to earn money, because now you have enough income from your personal resources. You would then simply work for accomplishment, you would work for pleasure, you would work for joy, you would work for whatever. But from that point on, once you became financially independent, you wouldn't have to work anymore in terms of supporting yourself, in terms of like making a living. So that is a heritage for all Americans, that you can become someday financially independent and live from the income of your personal resources. Now, here's the next question. How do you wish to live? There's a difference between modestly and extravagantly. If you wish to live extravagantly from the income of your personal resources, you'd have to have a lot more personal resource. But if you wanted to live modestly, and if that life would suit you, modest in terms of what it would require to, you know, support your daily living, if that was fairly modest, not the ambition of your goals, but modest in terms of the money you would require to live comfortably, it doesn't take that much personal resources. I mean, it doesn't take $100 million, you know, it doesn't take $50 million, it doesn't take multiplying $1 million, let's say at 12%, it's $120,000 a year. You could live fairly well on $120,000 a year, even after paying taxes. But it depends on how you wish to live. It depends on your own personal lifestyle. Now, if you need a mansion in every major city in the world, it's going to take more personal resources, right? If you need a jet and a chauffeur and a limousine and, you know, this whole concept. But to be free of anybody to have financial claim on you, and to be free to live, you know, in a fairly easy manner, all you need is a certain amount of personal resources to be able to live from the income of those resources. Here's what we call that, whatever those dimensions are: financial independence. Now, here's one more exciting thing we talked about a little bit earlier. Beyond that to be exciting, and that is debt-free. To where no one has a claim on your personal resources. And these are all interesting concepts. So let's go down through a list of, you know, things to jog our memory here. We talked about this earlier. Economics is major. putting together your economic plan, my mentor asked me for my financial plan when I was 25. Of course, I didn't have one. Just like a list of goals I didn't have. But a financial plan. Now, here's what's important. My mentor said it's not the amount that counts, it's the plan that counts. Because I offered him the excuse. I said, if I had more money, I'd have a better plan. He said, no, if you had a better plan, you'd have more money. I'd been working 6 years. And once in a while now, the creditors were calling. See, after 6 years, he suggested to me after 6 years of economic activity, I should be at least 1/3 of the way to building a financial wall around my family nothing could get through. And how far away was I from being 1/3 of the way? Like 1,000,000 miles. And he said, here's why you're where you are. Not because you haven't earned money, but because you haven't got a good plan. And the key is to not just live in the right country, but to have the right plan. So it's the plan that counts. Now here's what you do. You start with some plan, and then refine it as you go. Or you refine it as your needs require, or you refine it as your dreams require. But now, financial independence, being able to live from the income of your personal resources, that's a goal everybody should set. Now, if you're a little late coming to this plan, you might have to, do a little more stretching than the average person would. But starting at age 15, it's easy to pencil out where with a normal average income and the increases every year to be financially independent by age 35, 40 at the latest if you have a good plan. Now, the reason why the money all disappears is not because it doesn't exist. It's because the money isn't put in the right plan. So now let's talk about a few other things. One is, some people have to wrestle with, and I had a few questions on, is it okay to strive to be rich? Is it okay to want to be wealthy? Is it okay to go for it? I had to come to grips with that. Some people say, well, it'd be better to renounce all worldly goods and just live a very poverty, spiritual life. And that's one concept. I've got another concept. Try this on for size. If you could do better, should you? That's an interesting concept to consider. Why would you leave the biggest share of your life unexplored in terms of personal development and what that might have achieved, either in the marketplace or at home as a father? Someone says, well, I'm not going for being rich. I don't think that's really the healthy thing to do. So everybody has to wrestle with that, and I understand that. But I think one conclusion we could come to, with a good, simple, practical plan, there's no reason why you can't accumulate the resources to be financially independent. So now let's talk about it. Here's how Schoaf introduced me to the concept. One is to develop a current financial statement. Now this is primarily going to be a current financial statement of your finances, your money. Now money is not the only value. But make this note, it is one value. It's not the only one, but it is one. Money is not the only measure of success, but it is one measure. It's not the only one, but it is one. We learned in the little ladder we drew yesterday that your current income is a measure of your personal value to the marketplace. If your current value to the marketplace is $5 an hour, you get the $5. So, not that a person is only worth $5, but their value to the marketplace is only worth $5. But it's possible to very quickly change those numbers by changing your value. But the numbers do illustrate the value. We cannot leave that concept out. So somebody says, you mean where I am financially is an illustration of who I am? And the answer is yes. Now, it's not the only measure. I'm not saying it's the only one, but I'm saying it is one. There's a lot of other ways to measure a person's value as a father, a person's value as a mother, a person's value as a friend, as a colleague, of course. But we can't leave the money out. Now, here's why money is an easy measure. It's easy to count. Say, how are you doing? Well, there's a lot of, things we could throw out there about how you're doing, how you're doing. And when we say financially, that's easy. Let's count. Say, wow. So let's face the count. So my mentor said, let's come up with a financial statement. I said back then, what is a financial statement? I didn't know. So here's what he said. You take a piece of paper, draw a line down the center. Over here, you list all of your assets. Everything you can think of that you have that's got value. And then we add this up, the total. Whatever you've got. Your bicycle, I mean, whatever you got. Put it on here, put some value on it. That's the total of your assets. Now over here's your liabilities, here's what you owe. And you make this list. So I started putting this together. I said, well, if I do this, it's not going to look that good. He says, it doesn't matter how it looks. It matters whether or not you do it. He said, let's take a picture of where you are currently. As bad as it may be, or as good as it may be, let's take a picture after 6 years. Click. And these are called what? The facts. I mean, you can, throw around all the ethereal value. What about the value of being a mother? I mean, we're not going to go through that now. We're just talking about money, the facts on the money. So I thought, well, okay. He said, you don't have to publish this in the paper. This is just for you. So I started putting my liabilities, my parents that I'd borrowed money from, budget finance, the whole bit. And wow. Now assets. Now I am embarrassed. I even put my shoes on here. I mean, the Salvation Army give you what, $4 for your shoes. Can you imagine the trauma I went through now, putting together my first financial statement after 6 years? And he said, if you would have taken this picture much earlier, you probably would have done something about it. So this is what you must affirm now. This is the truth. This is where you are. This is not everything in your life, but this is where you are financially. So then he said, we subtract assets, liabilities from assets, and we come up with current net worth. Now, it's not your total net worth now, I keep emphasizing. It's your net worth financially. And you can imagine my picture did not look very good. Now, here's what he said. Let's start changing this picture. And the change you want in the picture is what? For the asset values to start going up and these numbers to start coming down. And that starts increasing your net worth. Guess how quickly you can do this? Almost immediately. One is to quickly think of something that you didn't think of to put in the asset column. Let me explore my closet. Let me find something here with a little more value, make me look a little better. Whatever that is. Now, on the liability side, then we start working these numbers down. And he said, you cannot believe the excitement of almost daily changing your net worth. Daily changing your net worth. Every time you pay off one of your bills, you just do this. And you just get great excitement in paying your bills. And here's what I told him. I said, I hate to pay my bills. He said, why would you hate to do that? It decreases your liabilities. And I never thought about loving to pay my bills. He said, no, you got to get excited about paying your bills. And you got to practice something like this. The next time you pay $100 on an account, you put a little note in there and say, with great delight, I send you this $100. Because my assets are going up and my liabilities are going down. I'm on a new track. I'm never going the old way again. Somebody says, well, $100 do that? And the answer is yes. So that you can begin to practice not only the new method, but the new attitude. Not just the new method, but the new attitude. And when you combine both the method and the attitude, you can get some incredible results. Number one, your self-esteem starts to go like this. It's unbelievable, charting all this course. You've got to do this now. Put together your own current net worth, whatever the picture is. Don't need to show it to anybody. It's just for you.